I wanted to spend a little time looking at an excellent presentation. This is one done by three students who looked at the way that electric energy was transferred into thermal energy. They wanted to look at how, by using a power supply and some resistors, they could change the amount of electric energy and see a corresponding change in thermal energy of the resistors themselves. One persistent flaw that showed up in their presentation and many others was the difficulty in distinguishing between what you might measure, say the voltage out of a power supply, and the actual quantity, physical quantity that was of interest, which was electrical energy. They do a pretty good job here talking about thermal energy and kind of imply that that can be tracked by looking at temperature, but they make no distinction on the other side, on the electrical energy side, and just allow voltage to stand in for electric energy. These students shared their process. They've got a photograph here of the setup. They were going to use the power supply to drive a circuit with two resistors. There's a photograph here of the two resistors. They eventually recognized that they were going to need some resistors that could sustain an energy input for some time before smoldering. So I located for them some 10 ohm, 10 watt resistors that they could use to explore this question. They collected a fair amount of data and used spreadsheets to help calculate values all throughout here. These were calculated formulas. They hint at the bottom here on what those formulas were, and when pressed during their presentation, they were able to identify that this was the mass of the resistors and this was the specific heat of what they assumed to be carbon, which was the assumed makeup of the resistor. In addition, they were able to produce a graph. You can see here that it's a quite linear and highly correlated graph, and they were able to repeat the process with a second set of data and another chart, another graph, which wound up generating an R-squared value of 0.99, which is remarkable. I think it's important to note that this was an excellent presentation, not just because the data itself was very good, which is obviously helpful, but these students had very good answers to questions like how come the slope was 0.47 as opposed to 1. They were able to come up with some very good thoughts about where additional heat might be found, since they were looking at the surface temperature of the resistor and couldn't get into the inside of the resistor itself. They supposed that they were really only measuring some portion of the thermal energy. They had good responses to lots of questions, and they were well informed all the way along. So it was not so much they had great data, but they had a great understanding, and that's what we were looking for.